11th grade. It is so great to have you join me once again so that we can continue learning together. Today is Tuesday, May 5th, and our focus for our class today will be our listening skills. Given that our unit is about being culturally educated, I just wanted to start off by sharing a quote about culture that I think has a lot of truth to it. It says, "The beauty of the world lies in the diversity of its people." I really think this quote holds a lot of truth to it because imagine how boring would it be if we lived in a world where we all looked the same or thought the same about things. There's no point to that, right? Thankfully, we all come in different shapes and forms, and that's why it's so important to value and appreciate diversity. Let's begin our class by opening up to page 282 and listening to the first audio.
Listening Comprehension 2. Hey guys, thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. Many of you have asked me to make a video about things that we international students at American colleges have to go through. Well, here's my answer to your plea. Here are 7 things every foreign exchange student should know about living in the US for the first time. 1. If you come from a transatlantic city, you will always be at least a little bit jet lagged for the first week of classes. So bring lots of water and coffee to school. 2. You need to find a friend with whom to go home for Thanksgiving. Don't want to be alone on campus, scrolling through everyone's family and food Instagrams. 3. Figure out which ID to carry with you when you go out. At some point, you'll find yourself at a club with your passport in your back pocket, certain it's going to fall out and get you deported. Just kidding. 4. You will initially be overwhelmed and shocked by the humongous food portion sizes. But then again, in a few months, you'll be able to finish an entire portion and order dessert. 5. It's okay to have random gaps in your pop culture knowledge and resort to the smile and nod tactic to pretend you know what's being talked about. Yes, I heard Kanye's music for the first time this year. No, I haven't seen every Mary-Kate and Ashley movie. Who the heck is Cousin Skeeter? 6. It's okay if you go days without talking to your parents because when they're up and free to call, you're not. 7. It's okay to be shocked at realizing that your version of America was all based on TV stereotypes. So my advice, roll with the punches and have fun.
Now that we have listened to the audio and that you have answered the questions, let's go ahead and check our work together. Number 1 says the video is meant as advice, as thorough, humorous, or serious advice to foreign students. Actually, the correct option here would be B, humorous. He is trying to be funny about what he says. Number 2, the implication is that everyone blank during Thanksgiving. A, goes home, B, spends extra time studying, or C, takes vacations. And he mentions going home, so that would be letter A. Number 3 says, in this context, the word humongous means letter B. That would be huge. For number 4, the presenter is A, advocating smiling and nodding a lot, B, advising patients regarding pop culture references, or C, advising learning about pop culture. In this case, he does mention smiling and nodding a lot when you don't know something about pop culture, but since the option only says smiling and nodding, then our best option would be letter B, because that's what he's trying to convey, Even if you don't know, have patience and you can learn about pop culture as the time passes by. Number 5, the presenter assumes that students might miss calls from home because A, of different time zones, B, it's annoying to stay up late, or C, students are too busy. Should have picked letter A because of different time zones. And for number 6, in this context, roll with the punches means A, if you're hit, hit back. B, avoid difficult situations. Or C, change and adapt as necessary. If you picked letter C, you are correct. Change and adapt as necessary. For this second part where you're supposed to discuss the questions, what I want you to do is get your notebook and answer questions 1, 2, and 3 so we can move on to audio number 2.
Listening Comprehension 3.
Hey Kim, don't you hate it when you accidentally use slang from your home country and everyone looks at you like you're nuts?
That hasn't happened to me yet. However, I often feel homesick. Sometimes I feel like scouring the entire continental United States for someone who will cook Korean food as well as my mom. Or, like, I miss home food so much that every time I come back to the States, I have to convince myself that slipping it through customs and risking deportation is not a good idea.
I hear you. Speaking of which, don't you hate having a constant fear that every tiny infraction will result in you being deported?
Or all the hours you've wasted standing nervously in airport immigration and security lines?
Yep.
But you know what drives me mad? Paperwork. So much darn paperwork. And having to maniacally scramble to the international student's office to get all of it signed on time.
That's true. That's happened to me a couple of times. You know what is also weird? When you talk to your mom on the phone and she tells you that your accent has changed and you don't even notice it.
Yes. And what about having to figure out what the holidays mean and how you should respond to them? 4th of July, Columbus Day, President's Day, Martin Luther King Day, etc., etc., etc. Just tell me when I can stay home, please.
Yes. For me, the worst part is always telling people where you're from and then having to deal with their questions and misconceptions. Or constantly worrying about reinforcing stereotypes and feeling a responsibility to break them.
Legit.
Okay, second part of our page. Track number 3. Question 1 says to be nuts in this context means to be crazy. If you answered anything close to that, you can count it correct. To slip through in this context means to take something through security when in fact you should not be doing so. Number 3, I hear you in this context means I agree with what you're saying. Number 4, the word from the text that means to make one's way quickly or awkwardly through a difficult path. The word you should have guessed was scramble. And number 5, what do you think the word legit means in this context? I think you're familiarized with that. It means, I agree with you. It's used to replace words like totally or definitely. Now I would like you to please turn back to page 281 and complete the crossword puzzle section of that page. That will be our last activity for today. Thank you as usual for joining me, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.